Welcome to the First and Goal podcast, the number one podcast for player development, both on and off the field. I'm your host, Ken Blocker, and today we are doing the high school highlight with Coach Ed Brooks. Today's three stars are
Gus Richie, Maurice Bowser Jr., and Luke Fulkner.
This is the First and Goal 365 podcast, and remember, don't compare, compete.
What's up, everybody? It's your man, Coach Block, and it's the First and Goal 365 podcast, the number one source for player development, both on and off the field. And if I sound a little nasally to you, please understand. Your boy has been under the weather for about half of this week, and my wife, I had to hurry up and get this podcast in while she's not home because she probably would be going nuts right now if she knew I was on the podcast today, because I have been in the worst condition as far as this weather change, because in North Carolina, it just won't get straight. It's either fall or summer. It's a mixture in between. We can't get any consistency on the weather. But with that being said, today is the high school highlight that we have with Coach Ed Brooks, and we have a special guest with us, also Jonas Pope. Jonas Pope is a writer that is here in North Carolina who has written for NC State. He's also done a lot of pieces with us with the News and Observer when I was at Enloe High School. He also works with the high school OT. So we got those guys coming in. I'm going to bring them in right now. Boom and boom. What's up, gentlemen? How y'all doing?
How's it going, Coach Block, Coach Pope?
What's up, Coach Block? Thanks for glad I'm finally able to make it, man. I know we've been talking about this for a while, so
hey, man,
I'm glad it finally worked out. What's up, Coach Brooks? How you doing?
We're doing good, man. Doing
good.
Man,
you're the hardest working man this side of town, man. Between the two of y'all, as far as y'all writing and evaluating, hey, man, I can't knock y'all hustle. I can't keep up. So what do you have going on right now with yourself, Coach Pope?
First of all, the coach part, you can drop it. I haven't coached anything since youth league football.
Hey, man, as long as you've done it once, you are considered a coach forever.
It sounds good. I don't know if it's fitting, but hey. Right now, I work full time at William Peace University in the marketing and communication department, but I still stay close to sports. You mentioned I covered sports in the state for 18 years full time, and I just couldn't give it up. So I still do it on the side, freelancing for high school OT, freelancing for various publications, wherever needed. So, a couple times a week, I'm out at different games, particularly high school games. I just saw Luke last night at Southern Nash. So, staying close to the high school beat here in the area.
Great. Well, we're not even going to hesitate because he's currently on a visit right now. So, for those who may be listening, if it gets kind of loud, it's because he's literally at a game, but he has taken some time with us to talk. And that is Mr. Luke Fulkner of Southern Nash High School. How you doing, sir? Can you hear me?
Doing good, sir. How about y'all?
Good.
How's it going, Luke?
Good.
Yes, sir.
So tell us about last night's game.
Good.
Let's start right there. Tell us about last night's game.
It was a great game. We came out ready. We've been pressing hard all week, preparing for this team, Harder Central, and we just came out firing, We had a great running back in Tylee Mitchell, who is a very explosive offensive player. So first play of the game, we took it to the house, like a 80-yard touchdown. And the defense was really clicking, where everybody was doing their parts, everybody doing their job, and we were able to hold them to only 14 points, I believe, in the whole game. At halftime, we were actually up. We were up 50-14 at halftime.
I noticed that. So Pope, tell us what you see in Fulkner. You got a chance to see him live and in action, and you've evaluated a lot of players. Tell us what you have seen from him, and then any questions that you might have for him as well.
Luke, first of all, don't sell yourself short. You guys are up 50-7 at halftime, not 50-14, 50-7 at halftime. But no, last night was my first time seeing Southern Nash, and my first thing I'll say about Luke is just like so much talent you guys have in the backfield. Like your Division I running back goes down after just 3 carries, and it didn't make a difference. You guys still rushed for 474 yards, 50 points in the first half. And what I just saw is not a drop off in talent at all. I just saw like plug and play, like next man up mentality. And I think that coach talked about that. From your perspective, can you just kind of just talk to the system and like how all 3 or 4 of you guys are pretty much just plugging and step up and have a big night like you got last night?
That's how we doing.
Well, it's just like So each of us, we all work hard. We play together, and we all just compete, man. And we're all in practice. We go hard each and every day. We push each other each and every day, and we just bounce off each other because we have speed guys like Cam, Lyons, and then we have power backs like me and Jaden Hartsfield.
Yeah, I think it's fair to call yourself a power back. That's a pretty accurate assessment. Someone told me at Southern Nash last night the reason why that system works is because you guys have been in it since youth league football. Is that true? And if so, like, how much has that helped? I mean, if you've been doing it since you've been like 8 or 9 years old, how well do you know the system?
Well, actually, I transferred in from Southern Nash. I was originally in Johnson County. So I came in, I was new to the system, but it was my kind of style of football. I like to play smash mouth football. So that's really where I fell into it. But a lot of those kids, they do grow up playing Southern Nash, from Little League. They practice the wing T offense. And it also starts with our O-line. Our O-line is very aggressive, gets off the ball quick, and just hits first.
So can you tell me about that transferring into a system? Can you tell us what it took, the mindset that took to transfer into that, and then also to be a leader amongst it? Because if you have a system that usually guys grow into from their youth league all the way up, coaches kind of already identify who their guys are. So tell us the mindset of what it took to be able to become one of those guys.
It took me just knowing that I had to be mentally tough to be in that position. It's not for the weak-minded having to play that kind of offense. So that was just really big mental part that I had to get around, is to be that man who would just be stronger than everybody, be more explosive, and just be tough on everybody.
And what's your current GPA? Uh-oh. I might have to
Our
break
current GPA is a 4.3.
A 4.3? So you're a dog on the field and off the field. So tell us what school right now. You're currently at William and Mary. Tell us what school is the best fit for you. What school do you see yourself fitting into? Like, what type of environment, what type of coach? What is it that you're looking for your next step?
Knowing I'm a little undersized linebacker, I see myself fitting in with FCS Division I level. One of my top schools right now is probably University, along with Richmond University, something like Campbell. And I look, more academics also, because you're not just going to college to play football. That's an important part about my decision.
Uh-oh, lost him. I knew that was going to come. So he might have his little connection. But that's okay. We can segue directly into what you guys, what you went to yesterday, and what I kind of watched just here and there, picking up scores from Max Prep, was the playoffs. Was there any games besides the Cleveland game that surprised you?
Man, I was gonna say the Cleveland game too. You know what? One did surprise me, and not necessarily in we talking about East and West. We talking about the whole state here. I'm not.
Well, man, I predominantly do East because everybody talks about the West, but it's okay. Hold on once. Let me see if I can. If Luke's ready to come back in. Oh, no, he's still buffering. You there? You with me, buddy? There you go. Are you in the parking garage or something?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Can you hear us?
All right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, man, it's okay to step out of that parking garage so we can hear you. It's okay. The sound will work itself out.
All right.
Yeah. So now so go over your schools again of which ones that you're looking at, because it kind of broke up before when you were speaking.
Okay, all right. So my top schools right now are Elon. That's probably my top school, along with other schools like William and Mary and Cable University, Richmond University, those type of FCS schools. And the other thing I look for in college is not only play football, is to have a good education.
What would you like to major in?
And then the size of the school, population-wise, doesn't really matter.
Okay. So look, what would you like to major in? What are you looking to do outside of football?
I'm looking to go into the business world. I talked with one of my teachers, and she said that would be good at something like project management, degree in business administration.
Okay. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to get you out of here because I don't want the coaches are probably looking for you too because the game has started. But at any given time, we can go ahead and get you back in here and we can sit down and talk a little longer. And I want to see what you got going on for this next playoff game. We can get you in after that. But definitely, though, get back to your game because you've probably been away from them for about 10 minutes. It's important to go back and get on that sideline, man.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
All right,
No
see you,
problem.
Luke.
We'll get you back on in no time, bro.
See you,
Good game
Luke.
last night, Luke. Good job last night.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, take care.
So dig it. We'll get him back in. I appreciate him and his father taking the time during a visit to even come in, but we'll give him back in so that we can get, a little bit more clarity on his answers. He just wanted to be in. So figured we'll try it out. But let's get back to that playoff question, gentlemen, because, I got two guys who do football. You guys do football. I enjoy talking to people who do football, not fans, but this is what you do. You analyze the game, you pay attention to the game. And even for those who are watching, we'll do those that are on the west side. We'll talk about some west side of North Carolina football, even though, they always talk about the west side. But we're gonna talk about that too. So what do you see out there, Pope? And then we'll go to you, Coach Brooks.
Well, you told me I couldn't talk about the Cleveland game, so I'll talk first about one that I was close to last night.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Cleveland game.
That's okay. I'll talk about the one I was closer to last night. I was at Southern Nash, but their game was so lopsided.
Yeah.
All their attention turned to Northern Nash and J.H. Rose, which they were going to play the next round.
Yeah.
Northern Nash was a higher seed, better record. J.H. Rose like 2 wins, and Rose won.
Yep.
And so it just goes to show to me a couple things. A, it's the postseason, a whole new season. Anything can happen.
Right.
You can't pay attention to records.
Right.
And then you have to look at the team that Rose lost to in the regular season. They were 2 and whatever, but they lost to some, bunch of playoff teams.
Some dogs, yeah.
Some dogs. Bunch of higher seeded teams. So you can't turn your nose up at a team because they have 2 wins and they're in the postseason and you're at home, you're higher seed, because I'm sure in their mind those losses built some character and kind of prepared them for the postseason. Some of those teams they lost to, including Northern Nash in the regular season, some of those teams they lost to were just as good as Northern Nash, and they lost them by single 1 score or less. So they probably came in with more confidence than people realizing, not just looking at their record.
Yeah,
that probably was a wake up call to a lot of teams across the state. A lot of programs probably talking about that this morning when they saw that score come in.
Absolutely. And the thing about it that caught me off guard was their loss margin against those tough teams it wasn't like they were getting blown out all year.
Right.
So it was like they were right there in a few of those close games. So they were kind of tested. And I have had this conversation with parents time and time again when they ask me about what teams do I pick. I tend to pick the teams who are battle tested because high school football is literally about confidence coming in, and it doesn't make a difference who you're playing. If the kids can stay on that high and minimize mistakes, anybody can win, man. Anybody can win at any given time. I don't know the specifics of the Cleveland game, but do you? I just know they scored in the last minute of the game or something like that. Coach, did you know?
Well, no, it was actually last 20 seconds.
Was it?
Yeah, a Heritage, which was a 32 seed, I think, with 2 or 3 regular season wins.
Yeah,
were less than within 21 seconds of pulling a major upset. Cleveland scored with less than 21 seconds in the game to seal the win. That would have been a major upset. 32 seed upsetting the number 1 seed. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think in the Jack Britt Wake Forest game, Jack Britt was the higher seed. Yeah, they were the higher seed, and Wake Forest got the W. Yeah.
Wake Forest is one of those teams because we all know coaches. He's another battle-tested coach.
They're battle-tested.
Yeah, once he gets in, if he has the opportunity to plan and scheme and watch film,
it's a chess match with Coach Lucas, and he's going to outthink you
all day.
I always say in the postseason, you're not going to outcoach Reggie Lucas.
No,
he's going to outcoach Reggie Lucas in the postseason.
That's right. Coach Lucas is a tactician in the playoffs.
Correct. And once he's in, it's a new season. He can care less about what his record was prior to that.
Absolutely.
Can I ask y'all coaches a question? how much did it help that they had, unlike any other year, they had a week off to prepare before the playoffs started? How much did it help these lower seeds that went in and made these upsets?
Tremendously, because most of the time you're praying that guys are getting healthy. You know what I mean? So you got that in your favor where you're getting guys healthy, and we're having 2 weeks to focus on one team. Man, you gotta and we get a chance to self-evaluate. Okay, where are our weaknesses especially during the week where you don't have the game? That's more of your self-eval week, because those guys had to wait until Sunday to find out who they were playing. So you kind of just, okay, let's look at us. Let's watch our film. Let's evaluate. Even if you don't do it with the team, you do it with the coaching staff. And then you have the opportunity to make adjustments that nobody else has seen. And that is the key. Because coming into the playoffs, you're like, hey, man, we've ran the ball first down 80% of the time in the game. Now you know, okay, well, let's try first down this week. We're going to pass. And if a coach has watched the film after film after film, he's expecting, and you know what they do on first down. They they pass that ball. So let's go hard. Next thing you know, boom, I got you. You know what I mean? So it helps, in my opinion. What do you think, Coach Brooks?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, a week to prepare helps the team. Like I said, you can mend the minor injuries, aches and pains, and study the film and shore up on your weaknesses.
Yeah. So what the one thing I want to ask you guys, because y'all hit the road. The one thing I have not been able to do, which I want to start doing because I'm not specifically tied to a team anymore, is hit the road. So when you go into these areas like Southern Nash, or let's even say like a Tarboro and all that, where, you know, these are run heavy teams and more old school style football, do you feel as though their style of ball helps or hurts, or is it still just traditional high school football when we're talking about the next level? Because we do know Tarboro pushes the guys out, but for a long time they just ran the wing tee offensively. And so how do you guys, and they're extremely successful with it, but how do you guys see that when it comes down to recruiting?
My take on it hinders them now with today's fast-paced offenses. A lot of them are pass-oriented, pass first.
Okay.
The wing T style that Tarboro traditionally plays hinders some of the kids as far as recruiting. When you're talking about the FCS and FBS level, I think it's a hindrance from what I've seen.
Okay. How about yourself, Pope?
Speaking about the running back specifically, that's what you're talking about here. Like
and running backs, but and just in general, like when you see a team that's like they're 1A or 2A. Tarboro
was 1A.
1A.
So you got a 1A dominant program that runs a old school offense. Do you think that hurts them, even though they have athletes? Like when I watch the film, I see bodies like, yo, this dude is, he's 6'2", blah blah blah. But
I mean, I like to think that college coaches are smart enough to evaluate that they know what they're looking for, regardless of the style of play. Like they can tell by watching how a kid moves, watching how a kid, his body language, how he moves stuff. They know if that kid would fit into their system, if it'll translate or not.
Right.
I don't know, man, because I know Tarboro hasn't put out a big name guy like a Todd Gurley in a while. But I know they put some guys in college.
Right.
Skill guys in college. Hasn't been that type of guy. I don't know. I think you watch these, and this you guys know better than I do. I think you watch these guys in their system, and then you can watch them at camps and determine, like, all right, are they a system guy or are they a baller? Speaking of Southern Nash, I thought when Bam Knight was there, I was like, man, Bam Knight, is he a system guy? He ran for all these yards. Quentin Cooley, I thought, is he a system guy? And then Bam was at State, went to the league for a while. Quentin Cooley is killing it at Liberty. So they play in a system, but clearly the coaches saw like these. I mean, you put the football in their hand, they can make things happen regardless.
Right.
Regardless if we tossing it to them, handing it to them, whatever. They're
gonna make a play. Yeah. And see, the reason why I say that is because so many guys right now are looking for. So many college coaches are looking for production immediately, especially from a high school standpoint. You don't have too many guys who are getting groomed anymore. Pause. I guess that's a pause. Dame Dash word. Pause. They don't have guys getting groomed too much anymore in college. It's like you got to be ready to rock and roll right now. If not, we're going in the transfer portal. And I wonder if schools that have that heritage and tradition of this is what we do, you know what I mean? And is that going to later down the line affect these players when it's like, man, this quarterback has always been under the center. He doesn't even know what it's like to take a snap in the shotgun because he's never been a shotgun guy. He's never had to read the whole field. Like, so does that hinder a guy? Like, so if I'm a kid and I know I want to play, what would you suggest to a parent when they know this kid may be handing the ball off 60% of the time in a game and he's a quarterback and he's looking for, you know what I mean? Because we don't want to see kids transferring a lot in high school, but then how do we handle that controversy in your opinion?
My take on sometimes as far as a QB, if he may have to find a school that fits his skill set, because if you want to be recruited and evaluated as a quarterback at the next level, you're going to have to be able to show on film that you can make the short, intermediate, and long range ball. Not so much long range, but you got to be able to show that you can pass the ball. And if all you're doing 80-90% of the time handing it off, then I can't evaluate you as a QB.
Correct. What do you think, Pope?
Also, yeah, I agree, but I think so. It goes back to like, and I've noticed from my perspective, a lot more teams, whether they run the ball a lot or throw the ball a million times, they go into these 7-on-7s on campuses now. Mm-hmm. Like they host 7-on-7s all summer. Carolina hosts 7-on-7s all summer. So you may go into like, all right, I'm a quarterback for Tarboro or Southern Nash or wherever it runs the ball a lot, but I got to throw it here. So you can evaluate me throwing the ball against air, not against air. I mean, but not against a line and linebackers playing live. But you can evaluate my arm strength, my arm talent. You can evaluate me reading the defense. You may not go into the season when we go back to our system, but you can see my talents here, in shorts and a t-shirt. That's why that's when I go back to I say like college coaches. I would hope they are smart enough to evaluate and see what they're looking for in those situations. Now, it may not always translate, but they know what they're looking for. Hopefully, they can see it in those situations.
Right. So then, when you guys are hitting the road, what areas do you feel like should have a light shined on a little bit more? Because we know I've talked ad nauseum about having the light shined on the east side in general more. Not saying that the west side doesn't have talent. I just feel as though there's just as much talent on the east side. Yeah. But on this east side, where do you guys feel there's a undervalued hotbed of talent?
I just said it last night on my way to Southern Nash, and I was like, I think Nash County, Edgecombe County is overlooked something serious when it comes to football talent.
Okay.
I'm a 252 Eastern North Carolina guy, so I'm modest a little bit too.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with Coach Pope. He's right. The 252 area code, Edgecombe County, Nash County, Wilson County, New Bern, the Fayetteville area, and then the northeast section of the state, Pasquotank, Paqueminas County. Those areas are overlooked, especially with Pasquotank and Northeastern. Okay. They've won 5 or 6 consecutive conference championships, and they're the number 1 seed in the East, 2A. But those areas are overlooked. You got 71st Fayetteville, they're undefeated, number 1 seed in the East for 3A, and they got some dogs on both sides of the ball. Okay. But those areas are currently being under recruited.
When I was at Southern Nash last night, I wish I hadn't thrown their roster away. But off the top of my head, Block, I'm looking at their roster. I'm like, they got a safety / receiver at 6'2", 215. It's like
that's right. Yeah,
he passes the Why is he not signed?
Both sides of the ball.
Yeah, they got a defensive end who's a junior who was 6'3", like 240. I was like, who's looking at this guy? Like,
right.
Again, I'm not a recruiter, but I know I've been doing this a long time. I know what it looks like. I know what it looks like. And then Southern Nash has, the running back was going to ODU, but in the last few years, they put out Bam Knight, Quentin Cooley, Jackson Vicks at NC State. And of course, Southern Nash produced probably the greatest high school player in NC and Julius Pepper. So like, I still feel like they get overlooked. They have D1 and Luke's at a game right now. I just saw Luke play last night. So they have the guys, but I just think they get overlooked somehow because it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's you think more of Rocky Mount or maybe Nash Central or Northern Nashville out that way. I'm like, nah, man, the talent, like the dogs are right here in the middle of nowhere.
Right. And so I haven't seen the roster for like any of the All-Star games that are coming up, but are those guys, are any of them picked for it? Do you guys know by chance? Like,
well, I know for the you got the Shrine Bowl coming up,
mm-hmm.
and then you have the East West. If I'm not mistaken, there's probably only a handful of guys from the East side that are on those rosters. Would all actually have to look at them, because I mean when they made the announcements, it was only a few from the East side that are on the rosters.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
they're underrepresented.
So then, and Pope, I'll start this with you because you know how important the power of the pen is as well. How do you suggest we change that narrative, in your opinion? Because if they're out there, how can we do that? Because I believe it too. Like I said, every now and again, like you said, you'll come across a team and you're like, hold up, man, look at this roster and look at the sides. Like, how come nobody's saying anything? So what do you suggest, or how do we do this, in your opinion? How do we do this to where we can get these guys a light shined on them?
Man, we can do our. I'm speaking as a former print journalist. We can do our part as much as we can. When I was in Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina, I wrote many stories I can about these guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how many people, especially coaches or people who matter,
yeah,
how many of these people are actually looking at traditional journalism anymore. They're looking at the fan sites like the Pack Prize or the Inside Carolinas. Coaches look at those things. But like, to get the light shine on them, man, I always say, man, the coaches got to do their part. So you guys take them to these camps. You know what I'm saying? You got to get them in front of these coaches. You got to get their film out there. I think that's bigger than the pen part. The pen is important. Once a guy is notarized, guy gets his stars and gets popular for his play on the field, we can be their unofficial PR director and get information out about them. But man, that tape doesn't lie. You know what I'm saying? The measurements and stuff, the film don't lie. That's what has to get out there. And in my experiences in Eastern North Carolina, a lot of these kids don't get on these campuses. They don't get in front of the coaches. And that's what hurts them.
Okay.
I'll agree with Coach Pope. Yeah, in today's environment, showing up at prospect camps, like the kids in Nash County, Edgecombe County, they hour and a half from Raleigh, Chapel Hill. They need to start showing up at prospect camps in State, UNC, Duke, Wake Forest, and get out there and be seen, because like I said, most of the coaches now, college coaches, are not looking at traditional penmanship articles. But if they show up at the camps, and you got like the kid 6'3", 240, he's got a good 40 time, then he is great up.
And go ahead. No, go ahead.
That's important to get to these prospect camps.
Yeah, I covered a guy back when I was in Roanoke Rapids. He went to Northampton West. Keon Crossan was a 4-sport star, amazing athlete. He ended up going to Western Carolina because he drove all the way to Currituck because Western Carolina was doing a satellite camp. He went there and put on a show in front of the coaches. Went to Western, is in the NFL right now. Won a Super Bowl with the Patriots as a rookie. But he can go to Currituck to that prospect camp. I mean, who knows? To that satellite camp. He had to do that. Who knows? But yeah, the situation like that, they got to get in front of these coaches the best way they can. And once you do that, like I said, man, your talent. I mean, you can't hide that. So once the coaches see it, they're gonna salivate at it and do what they got to do on campus.
Right. So then let's talk about the West. When we look at the West, we know that they always have the light shined over there. Schools are always pretty dominant. Who do you take out of the West coming out of the playoffs this year?
I take Weddington.
Weddington?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of that explosive defensive front.
Okay.
It's going to take a skilled, well-tuned O-line to slow them down.
Okay.
Because they run a 7-man front. They got 7 P4 level kids on that front 7. So you're gonna have to know how to block to slow them down.
I tell you another West team I've seen that I like, and I mean it's easy to say this, but I like Reedsville. I saw Reedsville earlier this year.
Okay.
And so many people get caught up on Harrison, rightfully so, because he's a beast. There's so many guys across the board on that roster. Again, other places, so many D1 guys who look like D1 anyway. athletes on their roster. Like I was like, man, if they're playing their A game and they're undefeated, so obviously they haven't had a bad night.
Right.
But if they're on their A game, they're gonna be tough to beat come out of the West.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I was just talking about the 4A level. At the 2A level, I agree with Coach Pope on Reasonable. I've seen them firsthand, and they have D1s on both sides of the ball, in addition to Harrison. He's not the Lone Ranger.
Okay, cool. So look, one of the things on this podcast I try to do, and Coach Brooks, you've been with me long enough now to know we try to give some input and information to parents and players for the stuff that you kind of don't experience, or you're going to experience, but nobody really necessarily talks about it. And the one thing that I do like that it's more in the conversation, but still not as prominent as it should be, is the mental health side of athletics. But I have someone who has written a book, and the book is called The Balancing Act, and she sent me a copy, and I've actually read it, who she is going to talk with us a little bit about just that. During the time, especially this time, when players are not being recruited the way they think they should, or, they're not in the playoffs anymore and they're watching their friends, and we all know how social media turns into a huge monster. They now begin to value themselves based upon what they see instead of basing themselves off of what they truly can do. So let me read a little bit about her. The author of the book, her name is Brandy Flynn, and she is the owner of Brandy Flynn Counseling and Consulting Services, where she assists athletes with their mental health needs and helps build their sports performance. She is also the founder and executive director of Breaking the Barriers of Mental Health, a foundation that promotes and advocates mental health. She has traveled across the country to speak to student athletes about the importance of their mental health and their self-care. Brandy is also a media personality that has been featured in print publications, radio shows, and national television. So I would like to bring on to join us in this conversation, Miss Brandy Flynn. How are you doing, ma'am?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
How you doing, Brandy?
Doing very well. Doing very well. So we're going to segue you in, because what we were talking about before was playoff ball. We're talking on the field, but we would like to talk with you a little bit about some off the field things. So playoffs are happening, and not all kids are in the playoffs. Recruiting is happening, and now there's early recruiting where you got kids that are being signed and getting ready to find their homes. And that's roughly about 1 to 1.5%. So the others are now at home. What can parents look for, or what can we do when we start to see that our student athlete may not 100% be in their best self?
Well, first of all, it starts before the season starts, meaning that parents need to instill in their kids that even though that you're great, there are so many others that's on the same level as you, and there may be some that are greater. So what we have to do is we have to come up with a plan B, meaning what other things can you be successful at if playing this sport does not get you to the level where you want to be at? I think a lot of times, not even parents, community, we instilling the kids like it's either making it or nothing. And on one hand, that's great because it teaches you to be so determined, to be so focused. But at the same time, we had to be honest that everybody does not make it. And even if you're great at what you do, situations can happen. You can get hurt. We never think about that. We can get into an altercation, or something that within our team, what if the coach get fired? Correct. And different things like that. So we have to look at all of that. So we do need to come up with other plans. And it's also with, thinking about what is your true purpose of playing the sport. In the book, I talk about, why are you playing the game? Are you playing the game because this is what you love to do? Are you playing the game because you're trying to get out the neighborhood and you're trying to take care of your family? Or are you playing this game because you want a free education? Because you'd be surprised. I have learned a lot of athletes that have played the sport. They really didn't have any intentions on going to the league. They just knew this was a way for me to pay for college, possibly pay for grad school. I can get these degrees and I can have a serious career.
Right.
Whether if the career is still in sports or if it's something totally different.
So then for those that don't specifically have that plan, or for those who just in their mind, they're 100% football or bust, how do you even inject this conversation? Because there are some players that you can't get through their head that, one, they're not the top D1 guy, let alone that they might not even play college ball.
Right.
So how do you even inject this conversation as a parent without damaging, just their esteem or damaging their confidence?
Right. You know what? There's no pretty way to do it. You just got to do it.
Yeah.
There's no skating around it, because even if you are this great player, you're this top D1 player, again, anything can happen. Say you're a great D1 player, you graduate, you go to the league. What are you going to do when it's done? Because you can't play this sport forever.
Right.
We're not making any more Tom Brady's, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, when you're in the same game for 20 plus years, you can retire and come back. We have to come up with a plan B. It's just no if, and, but. So it's maybe the way of how you can say it, of what else do you want to do? What do you want to do in your off time? Maybe not say, what are you going to do if you don't make it? But what are you going to do during your rest time? What are you going to do when your time is up? Because in the world of sports, your time is going to be up.
Correct. So then now you have two coaches, and he doesn't want us to refer to him as a coach, but it's okay.
One coach.
Yeah.
Two coaches. Y'all two coaches.
We have two coaches, and you also have a journalist, right? And what role does this play in a mental health capacity? Meaning, the journalist, the kids see what is written. That's one thing. And then us as coaches, do you feel as though right now we take that seriously, like the mental health side? Do you feel as though coaches need to take the mental health side a little bit more seriously? And do you feel as though what's being written about these young players at times, we need to pay attention to the fact that we are writing about kids? How do you feel about that?
You know what? So let me do the coach part first.
Okay.
Yes. The mental health part needs to be implemented, and it should not be implemented when it's costing you. Meaning, because sometimes coaches will overlook a player's behavior, but due to their winning and that's their star player, they'll allow it to continue, or they will implement mental health services because, okay, I need this NCAA regulation to be cleared, or he got in trouble, so I need him to go to, or her to go to therapy, do a couple sessions, write a letter, and we get back on. And and that's what happens a lot.
Sure.
So it needs to be implemented in the beginning. I've had coaches that had me to reach, to speak to athletes, and a lot of schools are afforded therapists on campus, but athletes don't want to go to them because everybody knows their business, meaning that everybody knows they're going to therapy, because those therapists works for the school, so they may feel that they don't have 100% confidentiality. So I've had some coaches or some schools that resourced me where they had to to pay me, but it's not being done like how it needs to be. And there have been times where I've done speaking engagements and talked about mental health to athletes. So it's very well needed, because an athlete really has a two-face, meaning who they are in the uniform and who they are outside of the uniform. And sometimes who they are outside of the uniform overshadows and take over who they are in the uniform. Because if you think about a lot of great players that made it to the league that probably would have had a better career but what they had going on in their personal life
Mm-hmm.
and never dealt with
Mm-hmm.
overshadowed it, and it cut their careers short.
Correct.
Now with the journalists, I mean, they got a job to do.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think that they should take in consideration his kids? I mean, I don't think you should talk crazy about a 10-year-old. But, you know, you somebody 16, 17, I mean, when you get to the league,
mm-hmm.
they're not going to do that. So I would say maybe not go as harsh, but they have a job to do.
Mm-hmm.
They need those clicks. They need those stories to be sold. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they have their own career goals that they're trying to do. So we really can't, I'm saying you can't sugarcoat it, because again, when they get to the next level, you know, ESPN is not going to be worried about their feelings. You
True.
know, USA Today, or they're not, they're not going to be worried about it. So it's a buildup. But again, it goes into, you know, being poured in all aspects and learning how to deal with it, because you're going to come with criticism, whether you're a great player or you're an awful player. Because as long as you in that uniform, somebody going to see you.
Yeah. So then let me ask you this, or let me ask this to Pope, because you're a writer. Do you feel when you're writing certain pieces, do you take things like that in consideration, like how this may affect a player or how it may affect a team or a coach, or you're like, nah, I'm writing what's here?
Hey, it's funny you asked that, right? So I've been doing this so long, you know, I walk into a game and without fail, somebody gonna say, all right, make sure you write something good about us. And my response is always the same. I write what I see.
Okay.
I'm gonna write what I see.
Yeah.
He fumbles the ball on the last drive, I'm gonna write that he fumbled. Now I wouldn't write that he cost him the game or it's his fault they lost, but if he fumbled, he fumbled.
Yeah.
He threw a pick on the potential game-winning drive. He threw a pick. He missed a free throw. Now I'm not gonna say he missed the free throw. He should be benched next game. It was his fault, but I'm gonna write what I see.
Yeah.
But also taking into consideration, I'm not gonna single anyone out, especially in high school. You know, college is different. When I was I cover high school more than I cover college. So I cover high school. Absolutely, I took that into consideration. Like,
you
know, sometimes I wouldn't even put a name next to it. I'm like, you know, there's a turnover on the next drive. I wouldn't even say who did it. That's a lot for 15, 16-year-old kid.
Right.
Playoff game, who fumbled the ball away in the last drive. I might just say a turnover. It just depends. Like I said, college is different. But again, I'm still not going to attack. I never personally attacked anyone if I felt, you know, if they did something and it cost them. So I'm not going to personally attack that person. I might just say, I'm just going to say what happened, matter of factly. I'm not going to take any personal attacks here.
And I'm going to ask both of you, because, you know, as the journalist and then also as someone who is a professional in the mental health field, are we overexposing our youth when it comes down to these quote unquote amateur athletics? Now, college, once again, different story, different ball game, not even going there with them. But when we talk about like high school and now even youth has player rankings, which is insane to me. Are we overexposing them? I'll start with you, Pope, and then I'll take it to Miss Flynn next.
I think so. I think it's crazy how much you see these kids. I mean, yes, the short answer is yes. I'm not going to keep, because I talk all day about this. But yeah, I think like my biggest thing is, man, sometimes you got to let a kid be a kid. And I've been around it. Like I said, I've been around a long time, all levels. You can tell when it's the kid having a good time and wants to do it. And you can tell when the parent is like, go, let me live through you. You know what I'm saying? So obvious sometimes, in my opinion. So like my daughter is 3 and she just signed up for soccer and she loved it at 3 years old. But if it comes around next year and she's like, well, I don't want to do that, I'm like, all right, cool. We're going to go with something else.
Right.
Some parents will be like, no, we signing you up. You going out there here. And I'm going to take pictures and take videos and put you all over social media and all this good stuff. Like, yeah, I don't want to spill there. I'm sorry. But yes,
it's okay.
I think yes. The answer is yes, in my opinion.
Okay. So what do you think, Ms. Flynn? So how and not only, I guess it's 2-part. Do you feel like we're overexposing? And then 2, the second part is in your profession. How do you see that wear on a child?
I am in agreement with him. Is Pope correct?
Oh yeah, Pope, P-O-P-E.
Okay, I agree with Pope. I've seen parents take the joy and the fun away from kids, especially in these. I'm just gonna say AAU. I've seen it a lot, and I've 7. Basketball, and it's like I've seen where parents. And it's not the kids; it be the parents or be other, the coaches or whatever like that, because it's like a pipeline, for them to go to prep school, to go to college, different things like that. And I've heard some horror stories in some of my sessions about how some of these kids were being manipulated because the coaches or whatever like that, or the parents. Had a certain payoff or whatever like that if the kids continue to do well. And it's like the parents are living vicariously through the kids. I didn't make it, so I'm gonna make my son go through it. But the son just want to have fun.
Right.
But you're making it more than what it has to be. So then that's when, and just go to the middle part, that's when they start, some kids will purposely not do well because they want to stop, or dealing with anxiety because you're putting so much pressure on them, especially with our boys, where we're making it that you gotta play because you gotta take care of us, like being a meal ticket. Because you have it where so many kids feel like if I don't make it to the league, there's nothing else that I can do.
Right.
Because that's not why you see some of these kids they're not staying in school. And there's so much I can say about that, but
so now you're in Memphis, correct?
Yes.
So are your high school players able to get NIL in Memphis?
I don't know. I do have a friend, her son has it, but he goes to a prep school in Arizona. So I don't think the actual players, and if they were, I don't even think they would be public school. It'll probably be the private school kids. I don't think the public school kids would.
So I'm going to go round robin. I'm going to go start with Pope, then go with Coach, and then end with Ms. Flynn, in reference to just what you think about the amateur. Here in North Carolina, we can get it. We can get NIL money. And Pope, you have 18 years covering sports, more high school than you do college, you said. How do you feel as though this now impacts the scope of what we used to know as amateur athletics for high school football players?
At first, I had mixed feelings about it. At first, I was like, this is going to ruin high school sports. It's going to be pay for play. But I think the reality is going to be a very small percentage of student athletes who will actually have like these big offers, like any life-changing money at the high school level. It's not going to be every junior roster is going to have a NIL deal with the local gas station. It's going to be a small percentage of kids who have the opportunity. And once the private schools were doing it, I was like, it's only fair that public schools get to do it too. I don't think it's going to have as much damage as people think it's going to do to the game.
Got you. How about yourself, Coach? What do you think this NIL deal is going to do?
I agree with Pope. On the high school level, it's not going to really have a detrimental effect because only a handful of the kids on the high school level in the state of North Carolina will get an NIL deal. So it's not going to have an effect like in college. So it's going to be very minimal as to, because currently I only know 2 or 3 in North Carolina that have NIL deals, and it's not going to make you rich.
Right.
I mean, it's a good thing, but it's not going to have the impact that it has on the collegiate level.
And the reason why I saved you last, Ms. Flynn, is because do you feel as though that's another thing that these student athletes now add to their pressure points and on their shoulders of, all right, I got to go get this money. I got to get this money. So do you feel as though this is something else that may trigger what maybe like performance anxiety and et cetera, because now I can get paid for this. So do you feel as though this is something else on the belt that we need to be aware of?
I do. I don't think that means that they should not get it, because what I've learned about a lot of college athletes, a lot of them don't have money, or when they do get a stipend, sometimes they send their money back home. So they don't have a lot. I've learned it from coaches that I have counseled, and how they had to go in their pockets to make sure their athletes were taken care of. And I'm like, I didn't know it was that bad. So I can see them, really striving to get NILs and trying to keep their spot, because just like how, everybody's up for your spot on the team, there are people who may be up for your spot for your NIL deal.
So it's another pressure point.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I feel like it's a good pressure point. Because it's just like when you're working. When you get a job, and you striving to go to the next level and to make more money. But I think that's a lot of pressure for a 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old. Because they're not kids, but they're not
kids.
full-grown adults.
Yeah, right. They're in that nice little gray area.
Yeah.
So tell us about your book. So before we get out of here, tell us about your book. Tell us, one, how we can get it, and then tell us about it and what inspired it and what inspired you to write this.
Okay. The book is Breaking the Barriers of, not Breaking the Barriers, Lord, that's my organization. It's the Balancing Act. I have so much going on. So it's basically a self-help book for student athletes to learn about balancing their life in the world of sports. So it basically talks about their life outside of the uniform, to balance it with their life in a uniform, and also being able to handle being a limelight, who's on your team, what's your purpose, and the people that you allow in your circle, including people that you date, learning to have a no man, meaning somebody that's not afraid to tell you no, and also dealing with your mental health. And people can just send me an email at brandy.j.flynn@gmail.com, and I could just send you a personalized invoice, because my website is being rebuilt. But how I end up coming up with the book is really based off a presentation that I did, where I was going to different schools and I was doing a presentation, and I was just like, you know what? This could be a book. And it's a book.
Did it. Yeah, and you did it. That's what's up. That's what's up. Yes, congratulations.
And it's also on Amazon. It ain't no top seller, but it's on there.
It's on there. That's a big thing. It's on there. Yes, it is. It is. Because I would like to get this in, when I was reading it, I would like to get this in parents and players' hands, because there are some stories in here that I think parents need to be aware of. I highlighted one of them. Hold on one second. I can't even remember it. I'm sorry. Whose story was it?
You highlighted a lot.
I was inside of this. I told you I was inside of this book. Because my biggest thing is I don't think people understand what their children go through, because that conversation is not necessarily always had. And the coach will get a little bit of it if he allows the space for his players to open up. And once you allow that space, you notice that the kids will kick the door in, and you find that yourself being more of a therapist than you do a coach. Yeah. And you know things that parents don't know. So when I got your book, I'm like, yo, this is what I'm talking to my players about. And you want parents to know these things, because it's their child. So by the time the kid gets home, they're tired, they go to sleep, they wake up, they do it again, and nobody really sits down and have intimate conversations. And I do feel as though these intimate conversations need to happen more often on these players and their mental health.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And I'm actually working on doing a revamping of the book, where to do more interviews with former athletes and do more blog stories that I did. So that's something else to add on my plate.
Man, I got any athletes you need, let me know. I got plenty of them that need to go and do things like this. So let me know. I'll definitely help. And so before we get up out of here, Pope, I'm gonna start with you, man. Some closing words. Anything you want to say? Anything you want to talk about the upcoming week with playoff football? Just close any closing anything you got.
No, I'm just happy to be here. I've watched this a couple of weeks in a row now. You know, I left some comments. You and I are always talking, so
yeah,
I'm just happy to be here and be able to join the party and share my experiences and my opinions.
Yes,
about preps, well, not just preps, but about sports in general.
Yeah,
here in the NC. So I appreciate you having me on.
No problem. And we need to do it again. So you need to let me know when you got some more time so we can do it again. Even if it's during the week, we'll make an exception.
Absolutely.
And Coach Brooks, close us out, man. What you got? You got something?
No, just looking for round 2. I think we'll probably see 1 or 2 upsets in round 2. This is going to be interesting playoff season.
Who is your? You know what? I didn't even ask. Pope, who's your championship game 4A? Who do you got?
In 4A, oh, okay. I got Weddington, like Coach Brooks said, and I'm going to go with Roseville coming out the East.
Okay.
3A is what? Is that 3A is Havelock? Is that East?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Havelock's East.
Who's Dudley? Is Dudley the house?
Dudley's West.
Yeah. Then I got Reedsville and Northeastern. I said I'm pretty fast. I know that one. I feel like it's gonna be a good one, hopefully. And then 1A, I'm gonna go with Tarboro, and because you can just pencil in Tarboro.
Yeah.
And I ain't even look at the West bracket. Murphy out there, maybe. They still high?
Mount Airy is the number 1 seed in the in the West 1A, and I think they played Tarboro, I think 2 years in a row for the title.
Yeah, they beat Tarboro last year because Tarboro went for fake play. Right. Anyway, about to start.
Who you got, Coach?
I'm with Weddington and Roseville 4A. 3A, probably either Havelock or 71st and Dudley. 2A, Reedsville, Northeastern. 1A, Tarboro, Mount Airy.
Okay, cool. Then we'll find out and see if those guys make it through. And then Ms. Flynn, give the parents something that they need to know about their babies and mental health in sports.
I thought you was gonna ask me who I'm rooting for football.
Oh, well, I mean, you in Memphis, so I didn't know if you knew it. Okay.
No, I was thinking NFL. No. The one thing that I would tell parents that to start having open conversations with their kids about how they're feeling with the sport and outside of the sport, because they have to understand they do have a life outside of sports, and they need a life outside of sports. And if they feel that they cannot connect with a child, or the child feel that they cannot connect with the parent, then it's okay to find a therapist for them to talk to.
It is okay to find a therapist. I promise y'all. And even for the adults, it's okay to find a therapist. So this is First and Goal 365 podcast. Thank everybody for tuning in. And Coach and I will be back again. Hopefully we can get Pope back. And then we will also have Miss Flynn back when we get some of these parents' questions. I'm going to just start asking her to just drop in when I get these questions that y'all ask me that I am not qualified to answer. So with that being said, man, y'all have a good night. Enjoy your weekend. This is First and Goal. Peace.
All right, later.